When you picture the blues, maybe you imagine somebody sitting on a porch in a rocking chair, plucking an acoustic guitar and humming the harmonica. Or maybe you imagine a smoke-filled, dingy basement with crunchy guitar riffs cutting through the sexual tension of the 45-year-old server and the 19-year-old door guy. And both are blues. Blues is not only a style of music with more subgenres than Eat Fresh, it also pioneered a crapload of different styles of music and the legends who started them. I know I've done 3 videos on country music, but I listen to a ton of different music, okay? I work at a community radio station, and if there's one thing I absolutely despise, it's genre snobs who are like, no, this music is the only good version. One woman in the blues stood out for her ingenuity and consistent growth despite her career being full of obstacles. Born October 1st, 1945 in Nashville, Tennessee, Ellen McIlwaine was adopted to missionaries and spent the majority of her upbringing in Kobe, Japan. She attended the Canadian Academy School and started off in life with an expansive worldview based on all of the languages and cultures that she grew up learning. She was also quite musical and from a very young age was playing the piano. After a few years, she started trying to learn the songs of Ray Charles and Fat Domino that she was hearing on the radio. She moved back to America in the mid-60s and settled in Atlanta, Georgia, where she clinically researched how to play the guitar. In 1966, she moved to the Greenwich Village in New York City and had a residency at the Cafe A Go-Go, opening for artists like Muddy Waters and Brownie McGee. Damn, blues artists have the coolest names. She also played with Jimi Hendrix while she was there. Frequently, the two became friends and they shared this artistic respect for each other. Yeah, I said it. She could hang with Hendrix. She could fucking shred. Well, back in Atlanta in the mid-60s, she linked up with Chris Saloom, Bill McCord, and Steve Cook to form the group Fear Itself, which was a blues psychedelic rock group. The group released one self-titled album in 1968, and although it was a critical success, it didn't quite have the commercial appeal that they were hoping for. The most interesting tracks on this album, though, were the ones that were penned by McIlwaine. I mean, you listen to Underground River, Mossy Dream, Forsuki, you understand where she was starting to really develop as a songwriter. After recording the album, Steve Cook was replaced by Peter Album as the bass player. Shortly after this, Peter Album was in a car crash with a drunk driver and unfortunately passed away, which meant that the group had to disband. After going solo, she released her first album, Honky Tonk Angels, in 1972, and she blended a ton of styles on this one. She scats on tracks like Panebo, she has full-blown acoustic folk rock ballads with Can't Find My Way Home, and then she just says, what the hell, I might as well go country with it. It wasn't God that made Honky Tonk Angels. This album is actually incredibly underrated in my opinion. She followed this up in 1973 with her album We the People, which expanded on her already incredibly unique style. As well as a few tracks that were recorded from Fear Itself, like Underground River, she also just took a complete left turn with the titular track We the People, where she not only shows off her acoustic slide guitar capabilities, but she scats in Japanese. And that track melted the brains of folks who heard it. Her next album, The Real Ellen McIlwaine, was recorded in Montreal with Kotai Records. It was released that same year. It included her rendition of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground. And holy smokes does this track ever rip. 'Cause it will not be for long. See, that's far more interesting than whatever Anthony Kiedis farted out on Mother's Milk in 1989. Look, I love that album by the Peppers, but really that track is just a chance for Flea to show off on bass and nothing else. Around this time, 3 of her tracks were also released on a compilation called The Guitar Album, which put her alongside legends like T-Bone Walker, Link Wray, and Eric Clapton. Even with all of this considered, she still wasn't given the same industry recognition, so she decided around this time to stay in Canada for the remainder of her recording process. That feels like the exact opposite of what every artist does. Every artist moves from Canada to the US. Nobody moves from the US to Canada. That just makes no sense.
Be the very best, like no one ever was.
America, are you okay? Look, nothing shocks me anymore. I'm not surprised at all that the White House has become an edgelord meme factory in 2025. Nothing is real. This is just proof that the government will do literally everything before they release the Epstein files. Also, how the hell has Nintendo not sued them for this? Look, my country's not perfect either. The CFL just announced that they're going to become a watered-down version of the NFL with a 100-yard field and elimination of the Rouge rule. Basically, a new commissioner came in like 6 months ago, and like any new manager that's insecure, he just started asserting dominance by creating new rules that make no sense to anybody that's been there for a long time. And he said it's to make the game more interesting, but our game is interesting, goddammit. Just stop it. You just suck at marketing. Just leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
In the late 70s and early 80s, she began developing a cult following in Australia after Sydney's AM-based public radio rock station 2JJ nailed it. added her music to the rotation. It was around this time that she got discovered by the Australian female legend guitar player Margaret Roadnight, who first brought her over on tour in 1980 and co-promoted the entire thing. She made 2 more trips south of the equator in 1984 and 2003 to tour with Roadnight and the Honky Tonk Angels. Most importantly, in 1984, she was the last performer to take the stage at the Regent Theatre in Sydney before its demolition. After moving to Toronto in 1987, she released her album Looking for Trouble with Stony Plains Records. After relocating to Calgary, Alberta, she founded her own label, Ellen McIlwaine Music, in 2006 and released her next project, Mystic Bridge. There were compilation and region-specific albums in the time between. It was really when she teamed up with Indian tabla drummer Cassius Khan that she discovered a whole new level of creativity. The album was a critical success, and it brought Ellen's name back into the conversation of music aficionados. She spent the late 2000s and early 2010s touring around the US and Canada with both Sue Foley's Guitar Women and Patty Larkin's La Guitarra Ensemble. She was also booking herself as a solo act at festivals around this time. In 2013, she also appeared in the documentary Hear My Train Coming about her friend Jimi Hendrix. Her last years were unfortunately wrought with financial struggles as the gigs started to dry up and the album sales weren't as consistent as they used to be. So she began driving a school bus. Although that wasn't her dream job and a drastic career change for somebody that's later in life, she still approached that with kindness, care, and professionalism that she would anything else. She passed away on June 23, 2021, only 6 weeks after being diagnosed with esophageal cancer. When it comes to song recommendations for her, it's really tricky because she was really prolific in several different genres and subgenres within those genres. I'd say Underground River is a good one to check out, We the People, It Wasn't God That Made Honky Tonk Angels. Listen to any of those, just trust me on that, you're gonna become a fan. Look, I can't get all of the details of her life in here, but in 2024, there was an incredible documentary released called Goddess of Slide by Alfonso Mayorana, and if you have not, you need to check that out. It will make you become a fan of hers. But that's it. That's all I got. That's all I've got for this week. Tell me who's on your Blues Mount Rushmore in the comments. Tell me what else you'd like to see me do a video on. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff.
We got him. Yeah.